everybody about yourself, who you are, what you do, all the good stuff.
Well, first, I'm so honored to be here. I love your movement. I love what you're doing. So I'm very
Thank you.
grateful to get to share a little bit about my journey. I always like to start first with just like who I am and where I come from. So I am a first generation immigrant. My parents moved to this country from Portugal at a very young age. And so I always like to say I'm like a manifestation of their dreams. As a very young kid, I was spiritually gifted and attuned, but I didn't really have an environment that was conducive to sort of supporting that relationship. And so as I got older, I was bred for generational wealth. My parents were like, go to school, do well, go to college, get a good job. So much so that when I was 5 years old, I used to say I wanted to be a CEO when I grew up.
All
So,
right now.
so I did what I felt was right. I did what pleased my parents and made them proud. I was very honored to and felt very inspired by their journey here and what they were coming to this country for. And so by high school, I graduated with an AA degree. And so when I went to university, I was like, I want to not only do what you guys told me, but also do some of the stuff that I love. So while I was going to school for business, which is what sort of they were hoping I would do, I learned anthropology, religious studies, went down a path of humanities. I loved the arts. And so very much so left brain, right brained. When I graduated from University of South Florida, I joined the NFL cheering for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was really cool. And being in that setting, again, just it was someone who, if I put my mind to something, I could do it because I believed in myself. And so graduated university, got pulled into a new organization, and it was my first job, my first big kid job. Again, still like trying to make my parents proud and honoring the sacrifice they made by coming to this country. I jumped into that job. Within my first 2 years, I had 5 promotions and kind of climbed that ladder very quickly. All the while, I remembered being spiritually gifted, but I didn't really use those practices, right? In the spaces where I was, the places that I was performing, it wasn't necessarily a gift that would have been received in that realm. So it took my dad getting sick in 2018 and passing away from cancer for me to just like pause for a second and look around.
Okay.
And I really was at a pace of movement that I thought was celebratory. Everywhere I looked around me, people were like, oh my goodness, you're so successful. But I felt so broken. I felt so out of place, so to speak. So after climbing all these sort of mountains and seeing the view, I felt like there's got to be something better than this. So with my dad's passing, I went back into work, but with the mindset of there's got to be something different. And so I started my executive MBA program. The company I was working for, luckily, was like, hey, we'll send you back to school and pay for it. Because I just was like, I'm not feeling good where I'm sitting. I feel like I need a change. And the beauty is through that program, I got to sit around the table with a bunch of different people from different industries, different backgrounds. Again, I had just started my first job and kind of climbed the ladder there. So I wasn't really diversified in like industry and knowledge and perspective. And within a year of my dad passing away, my mom gets cancer. And so I look around and I'm like, all right, hold up. Something has to give. I'm paying attention now. So I had, in graduating, written a succession plan to my company that was like, hey, in 3 years, I hope to leave. Just to diversify, do something different because I owed it to them and to myself and my career. But I didn't realize what I meant by different when I actually handed in that letter until my mom got cancer, and it caused me to really reflect and think about myself. And the first thing that came to mind was, if both of my parents are this sick, what does that say about me? What's in, what is it that, whether experiential or physical, like what is it that's inside of me that I can pay attention to more intimately? So I decided to dive into the practices of holistic medicine. And it first started with Reiki. I was at a restaurant talking about my dad's passing and my mom getting cancer. And the waitress was like, have you heard of Reiki? And I felt chills up and down my spine when she said, but I didn't really understand what it meant. And so I just put it on a mental shelf and was like, I'll get back to it. Because I was still just in the heavy season of grief and disbelief. So I started my yoga training journey. I went and did quantum healing, hypnosis. I worked with a shaman. I did past life regression. I did all these different tools and disciplines of holistic wellness. And through that journey, went and got attuned to Reiki myself and really started to almost awaken to my own spiritual gifts again. And it was almost like a peeling back of layers or like getting to the root of an onion. It just, the more I dived into these practices, the more I got intimate with myself, the more I got more connected to the different aspects and dimensions of self. And so now I get to sort of use both my left brain and right brain. I get to be wildly creative with business, but with the realm of holistic wellness and sort of supporting practitioners and people like myself who have a profound gift and a purpose in this world beyond what most people can understand, and
Mm.
finding a way to be of the world and in the world, but still be true to who you are and to your natural gifts. So,
Oh my gosh. So listen, I got so much to unpack after all that.
yes.
Um, First of all, my condolences to you. I mean, my mom passed away from cancer back
Mhm.
in 2006. No, 2007. So I completely understand. And you're so right. Like, it takes you down this path of trying to figure things out. And I have to share this. Like, the first time you and I met at our jobs, and the first time I get on the Zoom with you, everyone's like, you got to talk to Cyn. You got to talk to Cyn. So I get on the Zoom with you, and I just felt like we were spiritually connected in a weird way. I was like, man, she has the best energy of anyone I have ever spoken to in a job setting. Just
Uh-huh.
very chill, just very just connected to, I could tell you just connected to who you are. But going down this path of Reiki and hypnosis and all the things, tell us a little bit more about Reiki. I don't know that I fully understand Reiki. I've heard of Kundalini, but I don't fully understand Reiki. Can
Yeah.
you help us understand that?
Oh, I love it. So I'm a master teacher, so I teach this stuff. So this is what I love to do more than holding space. Because for me, Reiki was such a source of self empowerment that
Mm,
I love to teach people how to sort of tap into and connect with that. Reiki, in its more like literal sense, is Reiki, life force energy. It's a Japanese
mm,
practice, but the way I like to describe it and explain it is it's unconditional love. It's connection to the energy
mm,
in and surrounding us. And through the different degrees of Reiki, you start with Reiki first degree. It's all about learning self healing, learning how to connect to and attune to your own energy. And so I like to always give this example. There's radio waves, there's music all over, right? But you need a radio to tune into the music frequency. So Reiki, what it does is it sort of attunes you physically to be able
mhm,
to tune up your own energetic frequency to be able to hear sort of that intuitive higher self, that wisdom that is sort
mm,
of hidden. So it involves more of a holistic view of sort of the physical body. So in Western tradition, we like to think of the body as, we have a heart thing, we go to a cardiologist. If there's something going on with the foot, you go to the podiatrist. It's very sort of segmented.
right.
With Reiki, it's more of a holistic practice. So we
Mhm,
talk about the chakras, which are the different energy centers in the body, and
mhm,
one ecosystem. So someone might be hunching their shoulders over, protecting their heart, but it also is a source of self empowerment being sort of depleted because they're protecting their belly, right? So these two sections of themselves are interconnected, but through connecting to someone with energy work, it sort of helps you sort of understand where you are in time and space and attune more to what it is that your body is naturally craving.
wow. Okay. So now I got a whole nother question. Um, so probably about a month ago, I went to this wellness festival,
Mhm.
and there was a psychic there, and I'm all about that. So I go up to her, I pay my little dues or whatever to have this reading, and she says, "Hold your hands up to mine." So we go like this, and she says to me, "You were in a very toxic work environment. They did you a favor by letting you go." And I was like,
It's back there.
like, what are you not like what is going on? But then she took it a step further and she said that all of my chakras were blocked. And it was crazy because I remember when I was first let go, I was going through this spiral of you got to get a job, you got to get a job. And I didn't take the time to connect with myself. But then I did a sound bath and I did a pause. I was like, okay, Rhonda, what is your higher purpose? What is it that you want to achieve in life? Like, what's really going to bring you that joy and bliss that we all talk about, but somehow it escapes us? And I started to think, it's my chakras. Like, I need to, like, I got to get in alignment. So help us understand.
Yeah. Oh,
Describe the chakras, what they do, and how do you unblock them? Like, I think that's golden information.
yeah. So those different energy centers in the body can be associated with just the physical organs, right? So your heart chakra, your heart, right? There's very
Mhm,
specific elements of your body that are energy centers, right? Sources of power. And as you're growing up from being a child all the way to an adult, those energy centers are sort of forming and developing. And as you're growing up, you go through life experiences like yourself as an adult. You went through potentially losing a job. That
mhm,
those things impact those energy centers in your body and create stagnant energy. So if you can think about
mhm,
your body as it's a whole system, all the way from the root to your crown, when energy is moving upward the body, think liberation, it's lightening, it's lifting, and when it's coming down the body, it's manifesting and becoming more dense. So just like
mhm.
frequency goes up and down, our energy, we want it to rise and fall, natural, this the traditional ebbs and flows, right? Energy is
Right.
always moving. If energy becomes stagnant, it creates dis-ease. So imagine where diseases physically manifest, they usually start first in
Mhm,
energetic soft space, but we aren't paying attention to it. And so going back to Reiki being a tool that I got to use to really tune into those frequencies, more often than not, our intuition is tapping us saying, this isn't healthy. This doesn't feel good.
mhm,
Anxiety is literally your body indicating to you that it doesn't feel good where it is and it needs to
mhm,
shift, it needs to move. So as these blockages are happening in your body over time, what your body needs is to move that energy. Again, think slow, still water. What happens? Mosquitoes, disease, right?
mm,
I started to really understand what cancer manifests in the body as is really those blockages and those stagnant sources of energy. Most people that don't know energy, don't know spirituality, don't really tap into this level of healing or this level of work, usually have a root chakra blockage, which is the very fundamental chakra. It's at the base of your spine. And that,
mhm,
if you want to turn it in the Western terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's sort of that security, that foundational layer of survival, right? We
mhm.
all want to get to the top of that Maslow's hierarchy need period, which is self actualization, right?
Right.
Belong, right? And so as you imagine, as you go up that pyramid, as you go up those chakras, it allows us to sort of open up and connect to that true source of empowerment within ourselves. So for you, like you said, losing your job and having sort of that hit to your physical security and your foundation, what it does is it creates a disproportionate flow of energy. So we start to create from a space of lack. It's harder to be creative because we're
Mm,
rooted in this survival mode rather than this abundance mindset. Our heart is sort of grieving because there were attachments to those aspects of survival, maybe the currency we received, or some of the relationships, or the vocation that created our identity, right? So there's all these different things that happen throughout the body just from that one shift, that one change. So imagine over
mm,
a lifetime a compilation of those things happening. And we're very patterned. I'm always like, it's an ocean and there's
mhm,
continuous waves. So you could have, as a child, had a family system that had a lot of root chakra blockages. There was a lot of survival mode there. So it continues
mhm,
to manifest in your lifetime. And each ancestor, each child that's born into this world is brought here to sort of try to break those karmas and work through those generational blockages. So even as females, there's women collective blockages. So this stuff is not just physical to you, it's collective. And so understanding and working with energy, a big part of why I love Reiki is it's a trifecta. You learn how to work on yourself, you learn how to receive it, and you learn how to give it to others so that there's this sort of synergy of sharing and moving energy.
wow, that is so so deep. How does one get started? Or let me back up. Say I came to you and
Mhm.
I shared what I just shared about my situation.
Mhm.
What steps would you go through for my healing journey to help
Yeah.
me get to the other side.
So one of the first things, going back to like, I love to teach this stuff. One of the first things I like to tell people when they come to me and they're sharing some form of grief or hardship is I tell them to place their hands on their heart.
Okay.
And just by that moment, them connecting with themselves, it creates this awareness that wasn't necessarily there to begin with. One,
Mhm.
I'm in front of them while they're putting their hands there. So I'm being their witness to that, because that's really what the human experience is looking for, is for a witness.
Mm.
Second, just like when a baby cries or if you fall and trip, like the first thing you do is you put your hands on your knees, or if you pick up the baby, if it's crying, like physical touch is one of the most healing forms of love. So by just that moment, placing your hands here, it just starts to sort of create that connection in time and space.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
So once they're there, I ask them, what do you feel? And almost immediately they'll either start to cry because they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt myself in a minute. And I don't know even how to describe this. I don't have the words to explain it. Or they can say it really clearly. I feel so heavy. I feel so much grief. I feel lost. I feel lost. Right.
Mhm.
And so I always say it takes about 8 minutes of just sitting and witnessing someone for an emotion to sort of ride through and to sort of witness their experience. And once they're in a space of what I call homeostasis, their body is neutral, then I start to share a little bit of this self empowerment of there's energy, your energy. And what you just experienced was your body witnessing an emotion, because you are not your emotions, you are the witness to them. And
Mm.
most of us are taught not to feel our emotions, not to experience ourselves in that way. So just that moment creates sort of an opportunity for them to sort of attune to themselves, right? Without even doing Reiki, they're already turning up the radio dials to hear a little bit more
Mhm.
and tune in. Once that happens, people are like, okay, I want to know more. What's Reiki? Teach me what this means. So Reiki is kind of like yoga out in the West. It's becoming a lot more adopted, a lot more accepted. There's holy fire Reiki, there's traditional Usui Reiki, which is the lineage I teach. There's Kundalini Reiki. You mentioned Kundalini.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's all different dimensions of Reiki. So for me, when it comes to Reiki, you can, whether it's a wellness studio, a massage spa, or boutique, it's wildly accessible. You can find it if you just start to like Google and look for it. But I always say this is energy work. So it almost always finds you. So when my students
Mhm.
find me, I'm like, there's a reason for this. Spiritually, if you go into different spiritual communities, I know like meetup.com has a lot of places where you can find Reiki and things like that.
Okay.
If you go into traditional spiritual communities, you'll find it. Yoga, again, is very similar. It's again more of an Eastern practice that's moved west, but it
Mhm.
also has 8 limbs of enlightenment. So all these different modalities and disciplines that are more holistic take a comprehensive collective approach to the work. So I always say, for someone wanting to get started, first it starts with tuning in and listening to yourself, because Reiki was the modality that resonated with me. It's what was
Mhm.
attracted to me. But for others, it might be yoga, it might be astrology, it might be
Mhm.
other modality, tarot, for example. All of these energetic tools, they're just sources of empowerment for you to use to tap into yourself. So I always recommend tuning into yourself, and most people have not done that yet. So that's why hands on the heart and just taking a moment to pause and be with yourself is so powerful. And then again, listening to those inner voices of curiosity and
Mhm.
without judgment, following them.
Man, that's so powerful. I mean, it just blows my mind. I mean, I'm just starting to get into it. I'm like, I wish more people were more accepting to it, because I can totally see how the energies within your body creates disease, stress, and anxiety. And it's because your body is rejecting all these the outer influences because it's not accustomed to it. That's not how we're supposed to live at
No,
all. So it just, I wish people would just really get into it.
we are the five most people or energy sources that we hang out with. Like,
Mhm.
we're always attuning. Like, it's just
Mhm.
natural. So if you are in an unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy work environment, or if your family system, for example, is a big source of that, or a friend group, like, your body physically will always, before going into it, feel anxious. In those moments, feel unsettled and uneasy. I
Mhm.
always say, like, our intuition is always speaking to us. It's
Ooh, that part.
Mhm.
I've ignored my intuition so many times, I'm mad at myself because
Yeah.
it was right every time.
And we always get mad. We're like, man, why wasn't my intuition loud enough? And it's like, no, it was, we were discerning. We just weren't disciplined in listening.
Exactly.
And so that discipline is what creates that sort of muscle with your intuition. I will tell people, like, when they go through Reiki first degree, it's very much about self healing. But
Mhm.
most people will notice, like, in order to shed those layers of themselves, in order for their vibration to raise, to listen to themselves more clearly, means they actually have to do the things that they're most afraid of doing. Letting go of that bad relationship, walking away from that bad job, moving
Mhm.
out of that city where you feel stagnant and like you can't become who you're trying to become. You feel caged in, right? The hardest
Mhm.
part of listening to our intuition is it's not going to keep us from going into situations that feel uncomfortable, because our change, our growth comes right on that edge of our comfort zone, right? It's about being
Mhm.
able to look over the edge, knowing when it's safe to leap and when
Yeah.
it's okay to just look over the edge and prepare yourself for what's to come.
Mhm.
Ocean and the waves, sometimes we will ride a wave and we'll get sort of pitted in the wave and fall off our board. And then other times we'll be like, I'm going to sit this wave out, because we need to build up the rest and the stamina to go through
Right.
the level of work. So, what Reiki has done for me, like I said, is really helped me attune to myself and to my own waves, just becoming a better surfer. And
Mhm.
also, again, that discernment and discipline of listening to my intuition now has transcended to devotion. Before our call
Ooh.
of groundedness and meditation I did to prepare to sit and hold space with you, to after
Wow.
this call to celebrate and thank my higher self for guiding me through the conversation, right? So that's the type of devotion I create in my space. And it's what's keeping me from going into bad relationships, bad work relations, bad
Mhm.
ease. It's what keeps me from going into places without the certainty that I know that I'm divinely protected and what I'm doing is for my highest good.
Now that's super deep. So how would you recommend people go through that process? Like,
Mhm.
you gave some steps, but could you kind of map it out a little bit? Because honestly, I wish I had have done that before we got on this this call. Because now I'm feeling like, oh, you missed a step, girl. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of help share that a little bit.
Yeah. So I always say grounding and centering is literally just being right where your feet are,
Mhm.
being mindful and being present. So a lot of us, we live in the past or in the future. And I say living in the past is depression and living in the future is anxiety. So
Ooh.
finding a way to sit right here in the present moment. And a lot of us, it feels really uncomfortable. Like, have you ever had
Mhm.
like the silent, awkward pause in a conversation? People
Mhm.
just imagining what to do with themselves, right? So being able to just sit with yourself in the present moment and witness all of your senses, hear the sounds, smell
Mhm.
the aura around you, like feel the clothing on your skin and just be really present. That sense of groundedness and being here is number one, because we're always somewhere else usually.
Mhm.
Centering is what I call pulling all the aspects of yourself back in. So we aren't just one dimensional. We have so many dimensions to ourselves. We're parents, we're teachers, we're students, we're workers, we're bosses. We wear all these hats throughout our life, throughout our day. So centering is coming right back into that grounded present moment and being just wholly you. All those
Mm.
there's all those versions of yourself just stripped away so that you can be wildly here, wildly authentic to your experience. And through grounding and centering, you are pretty much here. So, what happens for most people, if they haven't been doing that kind of work, is it feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. So, creating discipline, like I said before the call, creating a grounding and centering practice helps me create the capacity to have it in these types of moments, so that when my mind might be going to what's the next question or what am I going to be doing after this, I have a to do list. I'm right,
Mhm.
because I've created that muscle through practicing and doing it over and over again. And that's the devotion. Devotion, even in listening to your intuition, right? Knowing that this was the right conversation to have and the right, presentation to do with you, right? All of that
Mhm.
stuff comes from devotion and practice. So again, grounding, finding stillness in the present moment, even like getting yourself outside into nature, think being here on earth when we can be so in every dimension but here, right?
Right.
Centering, calling back in all those different aspects of yourself and being right here, all one, and creating capacity for all of you is wildly special.
That's That was beautiful. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure everyone's gonna like really try to put that into motion. You talked a little bit about hypnotherapy as
Mhm,
well. I've done it one time and I said I wanted to go back and I haven't had the opportunity, but I would say I felt so light after going through it.
mhm.
Specifically, I wanted to work on I was starting to doubt my presentation abilities from past traumas of dealing with bosses that weren't exactly the nicest people. So
Mhm.
I went to hypnotherapy to try to help get over that hump. Help everyone understand the benefits of hypnotherapy because when I came out, like I said, I felt light and I was like, I think more people need to do this.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of my favorite aspects of hypnotherapy is it allows you to both be physically here, but also tune into a different dimension of yourself, right? I teach a lot about the soul's journey and how, like, our soul before this lifetime and after this lifetime, there's a collective sense of truth that we're going through. And
Mhm,
we chose to incarnate in this form, in this lineage, with these ancestors for a reason. So when you go into a hypnotherapy session, you're not just tapping into this lifetime, you're also tapping into sort of like all of these dimensions of your past life and future self. And if you're going through something in this lifetime, more than likely it's carried over from a different lifetime. And for
mhm,
me, one of the big ones that I did in hypnotherapy was my relationship with my father. I didn't really have a close relationship with him. He was a truck driver. Intentionally, my soul chose to incarnate to have a very intimate relationship with my mother, but my father to be absent because my karmas are centered around mine and my mom, really healing and
mm,
relationship with one another. And when my dad passed away, I felt like I was more so grieving my future self, these ideas and these dreams and these visions that I had with him that were no longer going to happen
right.
versus my past that I didn't get to do these things with him or I didn't get to experience these things with him. So when I went into hypnotherapy, I got to be guided into different rooms and settings and experiences that allowed my soul to experience those things in a safe, sacred space and sort of process those emotions in a very healthy way. Also, going back to sort of like we're metaphysical, we're spiritual, we're not just this physical being. It allows you to sort of like elevate beyond yourself and sort of collectively see your life's journey. So I got to tap into past lifetimes with my father,
Mhm,
our relationship there. I got to spend sort of this time looking at the whole view of my relationship with my mother and how every lifetime we've sort of transitioned roles to sort of teach ourselves this bigger lesson of being able to really love one another and support one another unconditionally. So hypnotherapy, like I said, it's a more of like a safe, sacred space to feel and experience things that our conscious mind will not let us experience. Again, those blockages,
mhm,
things that we talked about.
mhm,
And once you do, sometimes going it back to it just wants to be witnessed, you're getting an opportunity to, with that hypnotherapist, be witnessed. You're getting to allow that energy to move through you, to experience it, whether it's very physical or metaphysical, it's allowing it to be processed, which is what movement is needed for. I would say energy and motion is emotion. So the more we can allow ourselves to express those emotions in a safe, sacred space, the easier it is for us to sort of move past them, move through them. And the only way out is through. So,
wow. Man, you're
mhm.
dropping all kind of like knowledge on me today. Um, I love this stuff. I mean, my friend does the sound baths, the sound bowls. I've been getting into that and trying to connect more with myself. Um, because you have clients and you work with people on these types of modalities, tell me about a client that mm, was probably the most successful for you. Like,
Mm,
tell us a little bit about their journey, because I'm curious of like where they started and where they are now, what
yeah.
that looked like.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I'm more so a teacher these days than I am someone who holds space. So those students that are with me now have sort of moved into sort of their own version of a practitioner and or teacher in their practice as well. But one of
Mhm,
she has been on this journey with me from the very beginning. When I first went through Reiki first degree, I was like, I don't want to heal nobody. I just want to heal myself. That's why it's self healing. That's what I'm doing. And
mhm,
through learning Reiki first degree with the intention of just learning how to understand energy and connect with myself. And so, as part of my practice work, you have to practice with friends and family and people that you know. And so, my very, very dear close friend from back home, her and I, we first started working together. And she was like, I'm going through this journey too, but like, I can't connect to my intuition the same way you do. And so I
Mm.
said, just continue to try, just continue to allow yourself to receive the energy. Like, we all get our information differently. Fast forward to I get my Reiki master teacher, and so now I'm teaching this practice. When she showed up to do more work with me, she was like, "Hey, I know that you're teaching this stuff now. I would love to sort of understand a little bit more about how to connect with my intuition more profoundly now that you're teaching this work." So through working with her, I ended up opening the Akashic records, which, going back to the soul's journey, that's another practice and modality that I love to use. And through opening the Akashic records, I beautifully saw her and I sort of doing this work together in another lifetime. And
Mm.
when we got through the end of the practice, I shared with her, you and I were meant to do this. Like, this was work that we came onto this earth to do together and awaken to, so that we could bring this out into the world in a more profound way. And so she at first was like me, I don't want to heal nobody. I don't want to do none of this stuff. I'm just trying to awaken my own intuition, my own work journey. And now here she is. She has her own practice. She's starting to go out into the community and serve and heal in a very profound way. And she closed a business that was no longer successful. She left a toxic relationship with a narcissistic partner. I mean, she's gone through a complete 360 of her life. And she was working a corporate job while running her sort of business,
Mhm.
and teetering sort of survival mode. And now she's completely sort of in this space of freedom where every day she gets to start the day thinking, I get to do whatever I want. This is my reality that I get to create every single day.
I
Yeah.
love that. I'm in
Yeah.
search of freedom.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, so it's beautiful because it started out as more of like a friendship and like a creative space, and we were kind of
Uh-huh.
learning, exploring together. But then eventually we decided to do the work together more intentionally as I became more grounded in my practice, and so did she. So again, sort of this mirroring and this exchanging of work sort of helped her sort of shift her reality and sort of get into a space now where she gets to create the freedom she wants, which is very much so the practice that I teach. I sort of help people harmonize their personal and professional freedom.
Mhm.
And so, getting to see that manifest, it's an affirmation to me, because what I say is my work is I become the student of all of my teachers who are actually my clients. And my work
Right.
is patterning of and the themes of all of the people who come into my reality, because that's where my work is. So it's beautiful to sort of see that transition, and for me to be in a season now of my life as well where I've fully stepped into full blown entrepreneurship. I am wildly open to receive whatever it is that the universe is giving me to receive.
Mhm. I'm with you on that. Like, my friend that does the sound baths, I keep bringing up, her name is Devin. Like, I just reconnected with her and I was like, I feel like my purpose is bigger than me, myself. I feel like I need to provide people tools to heal
Mm,
because in this current reality, we have so many broken people. And it's understandable because all these outside forces, from politics to the environment, all these things are impacting us. But we can, within ourselves, control how those influences manifest within us. Like,
yeah.
we can get rid of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just starting on this journey.
No,
But
it's all part of it. I mean, you kind of know this too in the industry we used to be in, but we all move through these different archetypes. Going back to, we wear all these different roles. There's the mother archetype, the
Mhm.
creator archetype. There's also the healer archetype. And so we get to show up by healing ourselves. We get to be a healer for others just by sharing our
Yes.
experiences, just by sharing our
Mhm.
tools and our journey. It shows somebody else, one, they can be witnessed, and two, they're not on this journey alone. We're all doing this collectively.
Mhm.
I shared the woman collective. The mother collective is
Right.
also a big thing, that we're all moving through this archetype who carries these wounds and these traumas over lifetimes and lifetimes. So
Mhm.
you can show up in a space and say, this is my work, this is what I've been doing to heal myself. It creates space for someone to feel the same, to regulate to you, and to recognize, like, wow, if she can do it, so can I. Right. And that's one of my
Mhm.
things. I love like conversations like this, being able to show up in a space and share my story and have just one part of that story resonate with somebody enough for them to believe in the work themselves,
Mhm.
be attuned to them,
Yes.
to know, okay, that itch that I had, I heard her say Reiki. I've been looking at Reiki. I'm going to look at that. Or, oh, talk about hypnosis. I've been thinking about that. I want to go read a book about it. Right. It's that
Mhm.
your body is always sensing your experience. Our brain can only comprehend 3% of our reality. So if you really let
Mhm.
your consciousness take a break and let your body do the work, it's always guiding you into the spaces, the conversations, the communities that you're supposed to be in.
Oh, I love that. All right,
Mhm.
so I have, a couple more questions. One, how's your mom doing now?
Oh, she's in remission. She's a little 4'11" Portuguese woman. So that girl is, and she's a
That's
Leo.
me, 4'11".
She is feisty and she is like, nope, I'm not letting this win. She has 6
Good for her.
grandkids. My sister and my brother both have 3. And so she keeps her hands full. I say between the 6 grandkids and my grandmother, who also is living in an assisted living facility nearby, she's got her heart and her hands full. So
Oh, I love it, and by the way, I Portugal is my favorite country ever.
ah,
I wanna move there one day. Like, that's where I'm retiring.
yeah, thank goodness both my parents were born there. I can get dual citizenship. I'm in the process of finalizing that for myself. But very similarly, I went there in summer of last year. And it's
Mhm.
interesting. You go around and people are at coffee shops and having conversations, and people are walking around, strangers holding hands. Like it's
Yes.
very different there than here. And I
Mhm.
almost needed to see that. I would be like, yoga, Reiki. And they're like, what? We just eat food and love one another. Right.
Yes. Yeah, they're so pleasant.
Mhm. I definitely think, our environment here, one of the things I say is, my family definitely traded health for wealth in this country. And so
Mm,
it is one of my
mm.
goals to be able to sort of harmonize that for our family system and make my way, whether it's part of the year or at some part of my life, living back overseas. But it's again, I think it's just part of the journey. We're all here doing the work. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, tell me a boundary, because I always ask this question, in my interviews. If you would have to implement a boundary that everyone had to follow, what would that be?
So this one's a big one because my big like affirmation is may my boundaries be stronger than my empathy because that is a big one for me
Okay.
these days. But I would say the biggest boundary is almost always the same for me, and it's that no is a complete sentence.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
I love that. People
So
need
going
to say no more often. Like, what?
Yeah. Going back to my affirmation of may your boundaries be stronger than your empathy. I am someone who's highly empathetic. And I used to say it's my
Mhm.
superpower, but my curse, because
Yeah.
that empathy will keep you continuously in a cycle and a pattern of self abuse and self neglect if you do not know how to
Mm,
say. And a lot of us will be like, I can't because, and go like down this rabbit hole of why we just didn't say no in the first place. So just say
yeah.
no. Just say
Yeah.
no, period.
I had a conversation yesterday. I mean, I've been getting a lot of people reaching out to me. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I remember I was on my phone and I read the email and I was like, God dang it, there's only one of me. And my daughter was like, you're stressing me out. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to tell him no because he's trying to stress me out.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I can't do it.
She's attuned to you too. She could feel that. She's like, you're
Uh-huh.
missing me. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I have so appreciated this. Like, you have such a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you sharing. And I'm a fan of yours. I've been a fan of yours since the first time we had a conversation. But
I can't
let
wait to
everyone know, let everyone know, like, how can they find you on social, your website, all the things, if people want to reach out to you.
So, one of my big places you can reach me is my business site. We're called mindfullycreative.co. We are both an experiential design community, but also we support the sort of holistic wellness community and getting out there and getting the word out about the great work that they do. My private
Mm,
practice is holistic medicine, and it's a play on my last name. My first name, Cyn, for medicine. And it's again, it's a more intimate, sacred space of doing the work if you're interested in tuning in and learning more about how to tap into the medicine that's within.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure sharing space with you.
Yeah,
And thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Rhonda.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.